It was 1993, and I was in court. I was beginning a jury trial. And before they had brought the jury in, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I had this fever, this flush just come over me. And all of a sudden, my hands began to shake uncontrollably. And my entire body felt weighted and just felt down. And I knew something was wrong. We went over to an urgent care. And at that time, the assistant gave me a prick on my arm. And he came back and he told me, "You have valley fever." First week, I really thought I was going to die. My wife really, she was emotionally upset. We had 5 children, and I was the primary income earner at that time. And, back then there wasn't much anybody could do because there were a lot of the medication that was still in the trial phase. But I remember that first week, I lost well over 20 pounds. I remember my wife had to change the sheets 6 times a night because of the perspiring. And I think by that night, after a couple of hours, I couldn't walk anymore. I had to be assisted in order to use the restroom. I stopped eating. I remember I'd be lying in bed. I'm freezing, but I'm also hot. And the shakes, they were just terrible. I was itchy below the knees, and I couldn't stop scratching that as well. My head was pounding. I had difficulty breathing. Fortunately, we were able to get a hold of somebody by the name of Dr. Hans Einstein. And he was talking to me about this experimental drug at the time. And to be quite honest with you, I was ready to try anything. And I began taking diflucan, but it wasn't fast acting. And again, it was a trial period. But nevertheless, I persevered and I continued to take the medication. But I realized that even after 1 to 2 months, I still wasn't doing very well. I was getting better. I was able to walk after a couple of weeks. But ultimately, things subsided. My symptoms were bad, but they weren't as bad. Later on, I realized that Dr. Einstein was, in fact, the leading physician in the world in valley fever. And when I learned that, I realized how good a hands I was in at that time. So I found out about valley fever the hard way, but I was able to receive effective and professional treatment for it, perhaps the best. After I suffered from valley fever, I became much more cognizant of the little devil swirls that you see out there, or wind picking up, dust picking up. My wife and I would tell our friends, and don't let your children play out there. When it was dusty, we'd bring them in. We'd tell them, look, if you're at school and it gets dusty, go inside, stop playing. And the other thing people are not aware of is your pets. Your pets can contract valley fever as well. And unfortunately, my daughter's pet died of valley fever a couple of years ago. I think it's very important for people to understand that, now that COVID, technically speaking, has passed and we have a vaccine, people can still get COVID. But if you think that you're suffering from symptoms that are similar to COVID or the flu itself, and you just really don't feel well, I would highly recommend that you go and get tested for valley fever, because that is probably one of the most misdiagnosed ailments here in the valley, because a lot of the doctors don't understand it. I personally have a friend who asked my daughter to educate him on valley fever and the symptoms, because he wanted to know a lot more about it, because he'd been getting a lot of farm workers who had been struck ill with valley fever as well. So my advice to individuals, that if you're not feeling well, COVID is not just the only test you can take. Consider valley fever, because it'll save your life. I'm David Torres, and I'm a face of valley fever.